back for another episode of Lakers Fast Break and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcast, plus also as well, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. I'm usually on every week with Chris Sardieri, but he is on vacation and he is having a restful time in the beautiful islands of Hawaii. So I've got the great guys for the Lakers Fast Break, where we cover the latest news and trends in the NBA and the Los Angeles Lakers. Plus, big news happens right when we go on the air, which we'll announce here in just a second. So please go ahead and follow us, subscribe, do whatever it is you can to go ahead and make sure that you are part of what we're doing at Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Pop Culture Cosmos, and of course, everything that we do here at the Lakers Fast Break. I want to go ahead and mention as well, if you can, please support all the great things that we do at the Lakers Fast Break, including Joe Soro at LakersBall.com. Of course, Simblades with the Y.com. Of course, Lakers right there for you all the time at Lakerholics.com. The number one Lakers blogger, Laker Tom. You know he's probably, even at his age, with the dark glasses on, doing backflips right now because Christian Wood is now a Laker, as Joe is celebrating with a peach, I think it is. Go ahead and check out what he and Jamie Sweet are doing today at LakersBall.com. Our good friend Empire Jeff TV, please go ahead and subscribe today. Get him, like us, to 1,000 subscribers on Lakers Fast Break. Get him at Empire Jeff TV. And John McCallion, our good friends indeed. Go ahead and help them out by subscribing to their great channels as well. And of course, everything that we do here at Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, where we cover the latest news and trends in fantasy football right there for you. This is a special episode, a simulcast on both these channels and the Pop Culture Cosmos. And if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and make sure you tune in every week to us right here at Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and of course, the Lakers Fast Break as well. But before we get into kickoff week for the NFL, the thing we were supposed to do that was regularly scheduled, something happened as soon as we were going on the air. And that is, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, my gosh, the news indeed. The guy that's been the subject of 500 seemingly podcasts that are out there, including ours, Christian Wood has signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I will say right now, guys, it is something that the imagination, as we have talked about so much, as far as what he can do, what he can give, if his mind is right, will give us here. And first off, good man indeed. He's the first man up, first man here. Want to go ahead and make sure you know about what's going on with what he's doing as Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. And of course, his great company, Simblades with a Y.com. It is Joe Soro. And Joe, great to have you here on the simulcast. It was originally intending to 5 minutes ago be just an Inside Sports Fantasy Football, but the Lakers and Christian Wood decided to go ahead and change things up a little bit.
Yeah, with all due respect to fantasy football, real sports takes precedent. Lakers take precedent. And the Lakers just made AD's life a lot easier for this season. And as far as lineups are concerned, people are asking already, what's going to happen next? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen next. They're going to go to Rui, and they're going to go, Rui, you are not coming off the bench. Thank you, sir. Let's go after that 6th man of the year, because Christian Wood is going to be the starting center, and AD is going to be playing his natural position most of the game. And I'm very happy. That's going to open up the lane. You got 2 shooters that are bigs. I mean, I know AD's a shooter, but he's a threat at the very least. And he can make up a lot of ground. That's kind of the appeal of his greatness. Christian Wood's only issue is, but we have had that problem before, or at least at the beginning, and it didn't be a problem during the season, i.e. Dwight Howard. JaVale McGee was never a problem child, but there was some basketball IQ issues with him, and he played as smart as anybody I've seen at that position during 2020 during the championship run. So this right now on paper looks phenomenal. If he comes in and isn't a distraction in the locker room, which I believe the Lakers would not have made this signing without consulting LeBron and AD and without LeBron and AD talking to Christian Wood. By the way, Christian Wood's from Long Beach, so he's coming home. And I believe this was going to happen because it made too much sense. And now Christian Wood is going to showcase himself for the next year. And by the way, you were right, Gerald. It is a player option on the second year.
Yeah, it was just the Lakers don't have much in the way of money to offer him. It has to be a minimum.
Absolutely a gem pickup. Yeah. You can risk this for the reward. If he's a pain in the ass, you can bounce him too. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if it's my Laker Tom optimism. I just think it would behoove him to not play well this year, because if he plays well this year, this is one of those other guys, those role players. If he plays well, now this is really going to help AD play well and not get injured during the year. The Lakers are in absolutely perfect shape right now this thing is so evenly spread out in terms of how they've set this up. And I've gotten to the point where I just want the season to start tomorrow. This is going to be very, very hard to wait another month.
One of the things before I hit it over to Sean, you were not there for our conversation earlier today with Justin Quinn, who actually, Celtics fandom aside, was really a good guest. Both Sean and I were very impressed with what he was dropping as far as the knowledge is concerned and his experience covering the Celtics. He mentioned one of the things as far as the Celtics, before they signed Svi Mihajlovic, and even after they signed Svi Mihajlovic, needing another big man himself. And he mentioned, even though he wasn't enamored, the name Christian Wood had also been appearing on the Boston radar as well. So I think that he was just surveying. He was surveying the landscape of the NBA. And if he wanted to stay in the NBA and get considerable amount of time so that he doesn't have to go ahead and get the all in as far as next year and take the $3 million for next year, he can get something more substantial. The most playing time on a highlighted team, on a spotlighted team, would be the Lakers. And I think that's probably because Boston is just got too many players now. They're not exactly the deepest team, as he explained, but they still have just way too many players on that team. With the Lakers, he can still find himself, if his mind is right, and if he does what he needs to do, could find himself a key part of the rotation, Joe.
Yes, I agree. And we're looking at a guy that was not really playing a lot his first, I believe, 6 years in the league. I should say 5. And then the last 2 seasons played 68, 67 games, averaged almost 18 points 2 years ago, averaged 16 and a half this year. Was a double-double guy, actually, in 2022. This guy has the potential to be a double-double guy. Yeah. And it's going to be much easier for him to do that with LeBron and AD and guys like Austin Reeves. By the way, Austin, that putback dunk was very, very Alex Caruso-esque. Very, very pretty. We hadn't talked about that. Obviously, I wasn't here earlier. I was planning on being here, but unfortunately, I got sidetracked with some work. But I'm very happy. I'm very happy with this signing. I'm very excited that the Lakers have a true center that they can actually start, and he can play 25 to 30 minutes. That is so important, guys. This guy's 27 years old. He is 6'10" with a 7'3" wingspan. This guy can play basketball, not good on defense, but I don't care about that right now. All I'm focused on is offense. Get that stuff going on offense. We'll deal with the defense. Now this makes Jackson Hayes' job easier. Jackson Hayes can be that guy. Jackson Hayes has the ability to stay in front of certain guys and maybe be a weak side shot blocker. So you've got a good accumulation of players here that have deficiencies here, but positives here that you can use in and around the season. They might go after one more big just as a backup, like a Biombo. I don't know for sure.
Scared me, Joe. I thought you
Just
said
saying,
Biombo.
they could fill out another big on that last roster spot.
Oh, you scared me, Joe. Stop doing that, man. That gives me
Yeah,
chills.
no, it's not beyond Bo. It's beyond no.
No.
Beyond no.
No. Yeah, Joe will get so. I could just see about. Okay, you know what? Actually, the Lakers should sign him, Sean. Should sign beyond no. You know why? You know why, Sean? It would help our playback coverage because every time he would go to the line, Joe would shout so many obscenities because of all the bricks he would be shooting with his 37% free throw shooting. Joe would get so mad. Why do we sign this guy? Bleep, 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 bleep. So, yes, maybe it would be good for our coverage if he actually signed him. But
his job wouldn't be to
every time he's on that side of the court, it's like a turnover. It's like a turnover.
Anyway,
this would be your third center. He's not playing that much.
This is one of those good ripple effects, Gerald. Because he's starting center, balances out the starting unit, balances out the bench here. Obviously, there's no doubt, there's no questioning, hesitating about his prowess offensively. And obviously, it's another person who you can put the ball in their hands. And if LeBron trusts him enough, he could play a little off ball as well as with Austin Reeves. He's going to obviously experiment it with Gabe Vincent. So there are a lot of options here. Optionalities are good, especially when you're coming in with, a lot of new players in a system that, we've seen Ham pull rabbits out of his hat before with his offensive schemes, Gerald. So, it's one of those pop Bernie Bickerstaff kind of deals where Ham, he doesn't reveal his whole offense during the regular season. So obviously what we think is that Wood will not play significantly in the playoffs, but there's no guaranteeing that Ham doesn't foresee a possibility where he has to play. However, we do know that Anthony Davis last year played 99 minutes at center, Gerald, and we did a hell of a good job with that because we got all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Now, we don't count Western Conference Finals, we count titles. That being said, this shouldn't deter Anthony from not necessarily wanting just to play center. There are going to be times, and it will be significant in the playoffs, where he's has to defer his ego and just play this goddamn center position in order for us to win a title.
Absolutely. So that was MagicMan, Sean Grice, right there for you. The madman from Toronto. He did get out of Toronto traffic to not only cover Inside Sports Fantasy Football and talk about Week 1 of the NFL, but immediately pivoted into Christian Wood mode because Christian Wood is now a Laker. Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you joining us again, also as well, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and we will be covering plenty of Week 1 coverage of the NFL. Plus, woof, 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 as is tradition on the Inside Sports Fantasy Football, we will be covering the DogHouse with the guys' picks on their picks for the underdogs for this week 1 in the NFL, plus their thoughts on fantasy football and what is going to go down this week and their thoughts on the team. But it is Christian Wood. Christian Wood did sign a deal. I believe, Joe, it is for the veteran minimum for the $2.7 million, I think, for the first year and $3 million if he makes the second year. Is that correct, Sean and Joe?
Yes.
1? Yeah. So it's a 1+1, essentially, unless something goes terribly wrong. If he picks up the second year for the Lakers, it's not exactly the best thing in the world for him because that just shows that something went wrong there. But I will say, Joe, we're going to take the gamble. We're going to take the bet. He's going to take the gamble. He's going to bet on himself. It looks like not only you have a Lakers team that's motivated to win a championship, but Christian Wood to be motivated enough to go ahead and do what he needs to do to go ahead and make himself a a gettable player, a player that people want and teams want and desire once again, because obviously right now his stock couldn't be much lower.
If he has a good season, it's likely meaning we had a championship. And if it means losing him after the year, so be it.
Thank you, Intel Wild. Appreciate it as well. He says, welcome, Christian Wood, to the Purple and Gold family. Absolutely. Welcome indeed. Sean, your thoughts on this? I mean, Christian Wood, is he the final piece of the championship puzzle for the Los Angeles Lakers? Joe is shaking his head yes.
We talked about it.
We have talked about it, and we even tried to refrain from it, and we still ended up talking a lot about it.
Yeah, but I feel vindicated by that because what we said was gonna goddamn well happen. Goddamn well happened.
You know he's feisty tonight. Yes.
I mean, we talked about this. I talked about this. He's waiting for the money to roll in somehow, some way, and we thought, okay, if this player gets waived, if this franchise releases this player, or they make nothing happened. It remained static. And Gerald, all that talk about the Heat were so intertwined with him as far as the rumor mill is concerned. Normally, I pay infinitesimal amount of attention to that garbage, but just because I happen to be a fan of Damian Lillard, Wood does not fit the Heat model. I never thought he would ever sign with the Heat. So you're right. I think it just came down to those two teams. It was the Celtics and the Lakers, and he signed for all the reasons we said he would sign for. You have a center position that's basically yours if you sign the contract. You have a lot of offensive freedom because you've shown yourself to be a very good scorer / facilitator, at least from the mid post in. I don't really like his offensive game when he's dribble driving outside of the 3-point line. However, the positives outweigh the negatives here. That is true. I just hope he's like peaches and cream on his P's and Q's in the locker room, Gerald, because that's where his head needs to be. As long as it's there and on the court, I think this will work out for both parties.
Because of Joe, me, and you were probably the least in love with Christian Wood coming to the Lakers.
Yes.
Explain more why. I mean, because I can still see you're like very hesitant on that.
Yeah, I
my friend. You honesty is always should be the best part of this show.
Yeah, I just every situation with him has turned sour in the locker room, Gerald. That's a concern. Look, it's not as if there hasn't been there's no circus that LeBron hasn't been to that he hasn't been able to become the ringmaster of. So, in that sense, it's not really an issue, right? Because if there was like a little sense of an issue, I'm sure he'd be gone. So I'm sure this does have the blessing of LeBron. And look, Gerald, we've talked about it before.
What's the joke though? What is the joke? If Christian Wood plays well, LeBron is the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, that is the joke.
I think that is. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Fred.
but yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it, right? There was that sniveling little snotty snippet I saw that talked about how that there was a scout that said, "Oh well, there's a former." I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Medina actually, who said, there was a former Laker who just didn't like the cut of Christian Wood's jib defensively, and so it was like an allusion to Anthony Davis. And Gerald, we talked about it. Like if AD really had an issue with Christian Wood and Christian Wood's defense, he would be adamant that the Lakers not sign him. So as
Yeah,
far
because
as
he's the future. You already committed to him long term.
yeah, for 5 years, he's here for
Yeah.
5 more years. So if he didn't think that this was a good move either, he would have said something. So I'm all for it. Sign me up.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro, Magic Man, Sean Grice, to me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We truly appreciate it. I also want to mention again, we will be having our full edition of Inside Sports Fantasy Football on the back end of the show. So those who are interested in fantasy football, stay tuned. We've got our fantasy football picks, our weeks for the NFL, week 1, and so much more. But Joe, getting back to you, my friend Christian Wood. I know you're just getting a nonstop messages. Your phone blew up like seconds before we went on the air, my friend.
Yes, it did, and it's. I'm trying to catch up to not only that, but friends of mine who are giving me updates on Julio Urias and Jay Moore and Jeannie Buss's wedding, and I'm basically messaging them, going, "Are you going to tell me next that the millennium is coming? Y2K is coming? Like what's going on here? You guys know we knew this information like a day ago. So yeah, it's started the dialogue, but it's a September 5th was the official day that the Lakers offseason ended. Today was the day at this moment. Last 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it was when we first heard. And it's nice to know that it's done, right? We were going to wait till training camp. Maybe there might have been something going on during the season. But I think ultimately, I think this is it, guys. I think they're going to set the team now and decide on how they're going to roll with this team and make the necessary changes should things get bad. But I just don't think this team's going to play bad. I think the only thing that can kill them is injuries. And even then, even if it's a minor injury and LeBron or AD are out, you have enough depth now to at least stay within some kind of competition.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And again, we'll see what happens. I don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket when it concerns Christian Wood, but Sean, if it does go right, it could be something where he provides you the best case scenario is he provides you quality minutes during the season and he can give you 15 to 20 minutes of quality play in the playoffs. That's the best case scenario. And he can hit some clutch threes for you. He can still spread the defense out. He can do the things you need to do, provide maybe even a little bit better defense than he's given so far. Maybe it's the effort. Maybe the effort will increase as he sees that he's going to be on his first playoff team ever in his entire career. So maybe you will see that. Plus, like I said, he is absolutely playing for his next contract. So again, do you see a scenario where you could get the best case scenario from Christian Wood?
For sure. For sure. I mean that possibility is definitely exists. That would be him basically averaging 18, 10, 5.5 to 8. He's shooting over 50% from the field. He's at least 37% from three. I don't really need Christian Wood going to the line, Gerald, but that's a skill set he also possesses. So again, I think there's going to be a lot of lineups where you have three guards and either LeBron and Wood or AD and Wood, because I think Wood can also shave minutes off of LeBron's minutes as well, Gerald. We were talking about, if LeBron was at 30 to 32, less than that is optimal. Now you have a lot of optionality at the four, Gerald. You have LeBron, you have Christian Wood, you have AD, you have Rui, you potentially have Cam Reddish. So you're pretty much, you can run at least six deep at the four right now because of Wood and his versatility.
Well, I'm telling you, we are just getting it like Endorphin was saying, but also as well, again, what everybody here is saying. Just the interest sky high, Joe, right now. Everybody wanted to clamor here. We are so appreciative of everyone out there, everyone that's coming in right now. We understand it's been a slow off season. We understand getting back into the swing of things. Joe, could this be the thing? Could this be the key to get everybody's interest about Christian Wood coming to the Lakers being a key to the Lakers possibly having a championship season up ahead?
Oh yeah, this is Christian Wood playing to his talents and not being a distraction. This is you just got a starting center who is a double guy who's 27 for the vet minimum.
Yep.
This is
Absolutely.
a gigantic win. You have a legitimate
And
starter
without having to trade.
no
Jared
trade. This is
Vanderbilt.
like getting Kenny Pickett at 20 after your franchise quarterback retires after 17 seasons. This is it's you didn't even have to give up any assets. You didn't have to tank to get that pick. You didn't have to do
got him
anything.
in one of my last picks in my fantasy draft.
Well, I think you might have picked a really good one because I think he's going to have a good season.
I agree.
Of course, I wasn't able to get him in any of the leagues, but that's a whole different story.
He's going late in the drafts, 12th, 13th round.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
And, I usually don't pick quarterbacks too early, anyways. I'm more concerned about receivers and anyone that'll play for Kansas City because those guys seem to always do well because the best quarterback I've ever seen, physically anyways, next to Dan Marino as well, or in comparison to Dan Marino, is Patrick Mahomes. He'll make anybody look good. But I think the excitement is the preservation ability here is the key for me. Is he's not only going to help AD play less minutes, but he's also going to probably help LeBron too. This guy helps everybody. He can play 30 minutes. Imagine this guy can play 30 minutes a game the whole year and play 67 to 70 games. It's guys, this is exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need. And Darvin Ham now has every tool in his box to play this out as smoothly as you can in an 82 game regular season. And we showed you guys during the schedule look that the Lakers have some huge advantages in certain parts of that schedule where they're not leaving time zones.
But they also have 15 back-to-backs, which is
True.
3 more than they did
True,
last
but it's
season.
a lot easier to do back-to-backs when you're not traveling from LA to Memphis or LA to Florida, things like that. If you look at their back-to-backs, they're relatively not that bad in terms of turnaround time. But if you decide to not play LeBron in 7 of those games and you still win, let's say you go 4-3 in that span, that could be a good win. 5-2 would be nice too. So, yes. And you have the depth now to risk that. LeBron is really the only one I'm not going to mind them holding back. We have no choice with him. He's in his 21st season. We need him.
See, the more I think about it, the more I think we blowtorched the start of the year now. Honestly.
Absolutely. What I think, though, is that let's lead into this as far as Christian Wood is concerned. The question seems to be with most in the chat is where he fits in the starting lineup. They automatically think that he's going to be in the starting lineup. Joe has already said, move over Rui. He's going to be in the starting lineup. I'm going to have to say this, and I'm going to be the first one in the room to say this. Even though, he is a good fit, in theory, there's also the Darvin Ham process during training camp where he may not be the fifth starter that everybody wants, and he may be coming off the bench. So, Sean, I'm going to start with you because you, unlike Joe, are not 100% sold. I could tell in your voice, I could tell in your conversations with you leading up to this, even before this happened, that you're not 100% sold on it because of his history and because of other certain parameters that you've already talked about on the show. It's not a done deal that he's in the starting lineup. I mean, is it with him a good fit in the starting lineup? We've discussed yes, we've discussed no. The theory of Christian Wood, that again, if you want to go ahead and put him in the starting lineup, that means AD theoretically goes to 4 and Laker Tom wins his bet, great. I don't care. That's fine. If I win and AD's a 5, I'm just was going to tell him again, as I said before on the show, that you just make sure you take Mrs. Laker Tom out to dinner instead.
How do you not
But
do that? How do you not? You essentially
but
have three.
but then LeBron James goes to 3, which is a concern all this time that I'm talking about. LeBron James, your 3, Joe. That's what I'm saying. So Sean, before I get back to Joe on this, is that of any concern for you, LeBron moving over to the 3?
Gerald, I think
Or
that's
moving back to the 3, however you want to phrase it.
so the way you frame that question, I'd have to answer yes, of course. Of course, that's a concern.
You have a 38-year-old player.
Yes. However, I don't think that's the way it's going to go down. I think what's going to happen is that there's I think we'll end up calling it the 4-3 and the 3-4. That's what I think Wood and eventually LeBron are going to do on offense and defense. I think LeBron will be the 3 on offense. I think they'll switch. I think Christian Wood will be the 3 on defense that you'll be relying on to guard a pretty decent perimeter player. But you have Anthony Davis, the greatest defensive player of his generation, who's to me, Gerald, he refocused and he revitalized that it factor that he has defensively in the playoffs. Even though it was a sweep, we weren't swept because of Anthony's efforts. So I think that's what's going to happen. Now, I think eventually what's going to happen with Christian Wood, Gerald, I think he's just going to become kind of an X factor. I think the best situation for him is where he's in a situation where he's playing with a very good defensive lineup in the backcourt, which tells me that it's probably going to be Gabe Vincent and Austin Reeves. You add in possibly a LeBron and then Christian Wood as your 3 and 4 there, plus AD. You have a hybrid lineup in the NBA now that is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because you have Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, and Christian Wood, Gerald, and all 4 of those players were in the top 20 last year in pick and roll efficiency. So now they're all on the same team. You'd have to put all those guys in the same lineup along with Anthony Davis. To me, that would be the death lineup that the Lakers would have. It would be a combination of Vincent, Reeves, LeBron, Wood, and AD.
Oh, yes, he does get a little defensive, Darren. Absolutely, Laker Tom does. And believe me, I've been the brunt of it for 4 years at times now. But Joe, I mean, I've said again, getting Christian Wood, obviously, at the minimum, great signing, in my opinion, as well. I think he'll be a contributor if he has his mind right. And obviously, if everything goes well, and he just plays to the analytics that he's been playing for the past few years around 40%. Gets you 7 rebounds a game, can get you 15 points a game in that range. That would be awesome for the Lakers going forward. Again, get you some defense. Maybe we talked about his defense being ripped upon. If he can improve his defense or his effort, at least on that end of the floor, you never know as far as what he can bring. But as we get this great comment from Intel Wild, Christmas came early for us. Yes, it did. Joe, again, when you line up Christian Wood, when you line up AD and you line up LeBron out there, I understand it's only for at times a few minutes each and every time out. But when it comes to the concern I have, though, lining up LeBron at the 3, theoretically, or if not, who do you have as someone that's going to be guarding the 3s if you want to keep LeBron at the 4? Christian Wood can't guard 3s. Who will be guarding the 3s if that's the case, if you start all 3 of those guys?
Well, you adapt to the team you're playing. So if you're going to be playing,
you're going to be shuffling in and out. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
You're going to be shuffling players in and out.
I believe that Darvin Ham is going to adapt each lineup according to the team they're playing that night.
Yeah, Gerald, I think there's going to be a lot of hockey lineup changes that you see
I mean,
with the
the Lakers had
A
more
lot of
starting
two
lineup
and
changes
three.
than anybody last year, right?
No.
A lot of-
No. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Continuity in the starting lineup, but you adapt during the games to what you need in that game. If you're
Yeah.
playing top-notch small forwards, let's say if Kawhi's healthy, let's say Durant is playing, then you're going to need Rui on those guys, and you sick him on there and Vando as well. You're not going to have
and
LeBron
when
on.
you're playing a more physical team like the New York Knicks, you may need a Gabe Vincent and an Austin Reeves more than you would a D'Angelo Russell.
What Darvin Ham cannot do is be infatuated with his 3-guard lineup against guys that are 7 feet tall who can play the perimeter. That needs to not happen. Does that make sense for everyone? It's very important.
Zangerstein is all on board
Because
with what
we
you
sit
just
here
said.
and we criticize somebody.
Joe, the fact is he's infatuated with it.
We cannot afford to be infatuated.
He's infatuated with it. It's his thing.
We cannot afford for him
He's
to do
gonna
that.
do it.
We can't afford it because you're going to get butchered, and then we're going to sit here and blame D'Angelo Russell for not being able to guard 7 foot 3-and-D guys. Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, I'm not saying he is. He might have done what he did last year because he had to. So at this point, we're going to find out in preseason.
Well, let's say, this gets better if Vando has improved his shooting, because then you have more options. See, like I was saying earlier, there are more and more teams adapting to the hybrid lineup, and it's best described as this. It's not a small ball lineup. The hybrid lineup is this. You have 4 ball handlers, anywhere from 6'2" to 6'10", surrounded by a big that's either proficient in the pick and roll or the pick and pop. Either one. Doesn't matter which. Both? Great. One or the other works just as well. That's what's required now. So now that you have Wood, you potentially have that hybrid lineup if Vando is shooting, Gerald. And that's the icing on the cake is, yeah, you do have a Cam Reddish there, and you do have a Torian Prince there. But, I mean, if Rui and Vando are doing their thing, that depth is nice, but we're comfortably right there in the front court with that. So if Vando's shooting is improved just a little bit, Gerald, it's like what Joe was saying. I anticipate a lot of hockey lineups for him, like inserting 2 or 3 guys with a Wood or with a LeBron or with an AD, and being able to mish and mash lineups depending on the flow of the game. Remember, pace and rhythm are 2 separate things. Pace is about speed. There could be a fast pace. There could be a slow pace. Rhythm is patterns. They're 2 completely separate things. It's, people try and say, well, this team plays with the same pace and rhythm. They're not the same thing. So the Lakers were terrible as a half-court offense, Gerald, last year. We were terrible. We were terrible in the regular season, and we were god-awful in the playoffs. There were only 16 teams in the playoffs, and we were the 4th worst for the half-court offense. So if adding Christian Wood adds a half a point or a point per game in the half-court, that's well worth all the fluff that comes with them, especially like you said, Gerald. And I'm hoping for the best that his mind is right. But I need to see it, man. I need to see it on the court. And then that will change my mind. That will change my mind about Wood.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro, MagicMan, Sean Grice, and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I truly appreciate it. It's a special 2-for a breaking news edition of the Los Angeles Lakers Fast Break. Right there for you is the Los Angeles Lakers sign Christian Wood, forward center, to a 2-year contract. Well, it's a 1+1, a player option on the end for the veterans minimum. We're talking about that. And then on the back end of the show, we'll be talking about week 1 in the NFL as part of Inside Sports fantasy football. So, Joe, I get the questions that Darren is floating out there in regards to Vando, and the bigger question is, Vando does certain things. You're right. It all is dependent his time on the floor on whether or not he can hit that corner three and be effective at all on the offensive side of the court. Nobody's questioning his defense, but when it comes to it, the Lakers with Christian Wood and D'Lo, who are not the greatest defenders in the world, and we're not talking about against 7'3" guys. We're talking about him playing other guards. D'Lo has issues. He did in the playoffs, and I'm really worried about his defense going forward. But when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, I mean, Christian Wood, D'Lo, those guys, I understand that. But if Vando does not start, when does he play? When does he make a real contribution to the LA team?
He's going to have to make those hustle plays, those half-court steals that go to the basket and score points in crucial games that changes momentum. Hitting the corner threes obviously would help if he's hitting at it with some consistency. That's his contribution, is being able to play with kind of like a poor man's Trevor Ariza, basically. Hopefully getting to that level of a Trevor Ariza. That's really his ceiling in my book, if he can make it happen. The main problem for Vando is his inability to concentrate. His concentration is off. And I'm hoping that that's another thing he worked on this summer. Focus is important in this thing. When you're trying to win a championship, you need to be focused. You need to not miss layups when you're 6'10" and you just have a guy kind of trying to stop you. You should be able to make those shots and those baskets. Lakers have room for guys not to perform also. If for some reason Vando is a flop, again, it is what it is. You have Prince, you have Vincent, you have D'Lo still there that might be able to contribute. You have Reddish. I mean, the Lakers have put a potluck together here. We're going to see which food works. That's what this really is. They're going to give every one of these guys a shot, and we're going to see who comes out of the muck. And I just want 2 or 3 guys. I don't care who it is. 2 or 3 guys with LeBron, AD, Reeves, D'Lo, Rui, and then maybe if we're lucky, somebody like Castleton increases his value already, being that third big guy or whatever. I don't know. I'm just happy that they're done for the offseason. They've filled in every hole with guys that are supposed to play well with this team, according to their skill sets. The only bad part about Wood is his attitude. If his attitude becomes an issue, they got to make sure they cut that quick so that it doesn't affect the locker room, which I don't think would be a problem anyways, guys. He's not Russell Westbrook making $45 million and you can't trade him. So I think we're in good shape. Regardless of who comes out of this. I don't care. I don't care who comes out of this. You made a good point about defense when D'Lo and Wood are in. That is going to be an interesting issue on how Darvin Ham is going to handle that. I'm looking forward to it, and that might be why he doesn't start. That might be it, because you can't have a bad perimeter player that can't play defense and a center who can't play defense. That might throw everything off on the defensive end, but we're not going to know until we see it. The good thing is that team will have an open lane every time out. And that's what LeBron does well. When the lane's parted like the Red Sea, that's where LeBron does his best work.
You think the Lakers planned it, that they signed and announced that Christian Wood was now a Laker just so they could time it with our show? You think that's possible, Joe?
Yes. I mean, The timing was ridiculously perfect. I'm talking, I pressed the mouse and boom, the announcement came in.
And then I had actually hit start stream.
Your face was on the screen, and I was waiting for you to click me in. Like literally, the second I pressed that button, my phone alerted. Christian Wood signs a 2-year deal with the Lakers, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. And then your face was on there, and I'm like, Gerald, click me in. I got to say something. And then after about 5 seconds, he clicked me in, and then boom.
Yep, and it was just so weird because I clicked in
So
the start stream. Go ahead, Sean.
I think we can reduce this down to, its simplest conclusion here. He's either a starting center or he's their sixth man. It's either one. So I don't really care which one it is. It's either or. So what if Jackson Hayes is our Frank Kaminsky or Bill Wennington coming in for Jay Crowder and then Luke Longley? Who cares? If Hayes does what he does in the first 5 to 8 minutes and then Wood comes in and AD slides over, who cares? The point is that this gives us real depth. It's balance. Creates a lot of options for Ham. But Gerald, we also saw that Ham went with just peas and carrots in the playoffs. Basically, he and his hand was forced, obviously, because of LeBron's injury. But again, now that there's another player who could secondarily play with LeBron off a pick and roll and be the driver, not the roller, Gerald, and LeBron has now that that versatility that he's probably looking for at 38, turning 39, Gerald. So now I potentially are playing in a lineup with, and again, it's a lineup, not a starting lineup, but Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, then I have Christian Wood and AD. So I've got 3 other ball handlers beside me, and I can decide what is best for us on a singular possession. I think that's more key, is that he has more options now.
That's true. So getting into the final part of our discussion, because we've been all over the place, so excited to talk about Christian Wood now becoming a part of the Los Angeles Lakers. And I know that's something we were trying to refrain from, trying to temper people's enthusiasm. We had a feeling that the Lakers put the offer out there. It was just up to him to decide whether or not he wanted to take it, if he saw anything better. Obviously, he didn't see much going on with Miami, because that's been rumored he was going there. We talked about it earlier today with Justin Quinn, as far as Boston being a possibility. He just didn't see the financial boom or just the sheer number of teams that wanted his services. So now it's a redemption tour for him, along with Jackson Hayes, along with Cam Reddish, to see if 1, 2, or all 3 of those players can find their marketplace again with some good seasons for the Lakers. But that comes down to what everybody wants to hear our thoughts on, and we read our thoughts on, is what is the starting lineup that we should run with going into training camp. It might work out differently, and we might have a different answer by the time training camp and exhibition season starts or ends. So I'm not holding you to this, but I just want to see, before we get into camp, with we're about 3.5 weeks away ish, something like that, before training camp. So Joe, I'll start with you. I know you mentioned already, but please reiterate your starting lineup for those who've been asking in our chat.
My preference is to have Wood start at center, AD at the 4, LeBron hybrid 3-point with D'Angelo and Austin Reeves. That's my preferred starting lineup to just start the game.
All right. Coming back on
as we
here.
Disappear.
Yes, we are reappearing here. Sean, it's weird how that happened, but Sean, I want to ask you this, my friend. When it comes to a starting lineup, what is your starting lineup that you have?
Gerald, are you pulling a David Blaine on us?
No, not at all.
You are in Vegas.
Yes, but nope, not intentional.
Are you sure you didn't just David Copperfield us right now?
No, I'm not hiding any jet planes anymore, my friend. So there you go.
Anyway, yeah. So I think it's the same as Joe's. Probably D'Lo, Reeves, LeBron, AD, and Wood. Now, if you really wanna play around, right? Maybe Hayes is the 5, and then Wood comes off the bench. But I'd start Wood. I'd just start him.
I will say this again.
Gerald, I think so who do you think, who would you rather Vando play beside if his shot isn't falling at first?
If
Would
the
you
shot
rather
isn't
have
falling, he's not going to
yeah,
stay in the lineup.
right, no, but Darvin Ham likes his defense, so he's going to play him, anywhere from 17 to 25 minutes. So I'll frame the question again. Who would you rather see Vando play beside if his shot isn't falling? Christian Wood or Jackson Hayes?
Oh, it's not a question, Christian Wood, because
Sure.
it you've got a non-offensive center or basically a dunk guy in the dunker spot, and then you have Vando, who's then it would be not effective to do anything for you on the offensive end. So it's just you don't have much of a choice. But you also, when you have Christian Wood out there, and then I was telling Joe, you have D'Lo out there. You've got to have defensive players out there, and that means you're going to have Vando. So I just
That
think at this.
means that then Gerald, that means that, because okay, so we talk about the good ripple effects. Okay,
Mhm.
here's a ripple effect that they need. Then you need either Jared Vanderbilt or Cam Reddish to be really good at the 3-point shot this year.
Mhm.
One or the other. Doesn't matter who. I don't have a preference. I have a preference for the name on the front, not on the back. Unless it's Bryant, Johnson, Worthy, it's about the front. And
Okay.
so I think, what's important here is what's best for the Lakers. What's best for the Lakers right now is to have Christian Wood as your starting center.
Well, I guess this signing may have come with some guarantees as well. I'm assuming if that's the case, when you're only signing him for the veteran minimum, so you got to try and let him know, give some guarantees that
can't
he'll at
keep
least get
looking.
the opportunity to
I
start
think
or play
I think we're looking
significant
at way too much negatives in this situation. We're not looking at the positives. What Christian Wood brings on the offensive side is a difference maker.
Mhm.
Why are you smiling, Sean?
Because I said the positives outweigh the negatives. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, I know.
He just never listens. He only listens to himself.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, I get it. It's
but
just
that's like starting. That's like saying, "Well, I don't want to be rude, but
I'm just a small town lawyer, but
sure."
seems to me
Well, okay, Christian Wood. You're talking about the positives, of course. The fact that he can stretch the ball, he can rebound, he can block shots. Again, it's all about effort, I think, on the defensive end with him. He's been in the league long enough. He's seen a lot of offenses. He's seen a lot of defenses, a lineup. The Lakers will probably try to do the best they can to give him that opportunity to succeed right there for you. But it's still, to me, it's just kind of concerning the fact that when you have somebody like Christian Wood out there and LeBron and AD playing the 3-4-5, especially if you're starting up against some wings, man, that's going to be some problems for the Lakers, at least to start off the game. LeBron cannot be chasing after wings at 38 years old. I just cannot stress that enough. So where does that leave you? That leaves you with probably bringing Vando in. But my starting lineup, I guess right now going in, because I don't have enough confidence in Vando, guys, is that you have to go ahead and bring in Wood. I guess you have to go ahead and put him in the starting lineup. But I really think that we have to see how the defensive end looks and who will be guarding the wings if you have those three bigs out there all at the same time. We talk about the three guards. Now we're going to have three bigs out there at the same time. So that's, again, while the offense may look really good, and actually the half court offense may look actually pretty decent for once. The thing is, will you be able to go ahead and get the most on the defensive end as well? That's where I'm worried, Sean and Joe. That's my.
it's a legitimate concern, Gerald.
But if Vando can't improve his shot, then it's just like playing 4-on-5.
So I'm
Yeah.
not listening, huh?
Usually you don't.
You just reiterated what I just said.
Pretty much.
Well, there you go.
You keep thinking about the bad stuff. What about the good stuff?
Because it's my opinion, Joe.
It has nothing to do with your opinion. You just confirmed what I said. How am
But
I not paying attention?
But the question started off with who is your starting lineup? So I'm announcing.
How am I not paying attention when I said you're doing what you're doing, and then you did it again?
But it's my turn to talk about my choice.
You're changing the subject now. Now you're changing the subject. Now I'm paying attention.
The original question was the starting lineup. Was it not?
Did you not hear me say what's going to happen to this offense?
Yes,
how are you going to stop the
offense?
But
it's my turn to talk.
That's not the point.
What do you mean it's not the point?
It's not the point. I said you guys were doing something, or you especially, and then you said, no, you're not paying attention. And then as soon as you start telling us your opinion, you reaffirm what I just said.
Again, you had your chance to name your starting lineup. So did Sean.
That's not what I'm talking about.
But it's what I'm talking about. That was the original question. That
was the original question.
See, Joe went off on one of his, well-known and world-famous tangents that he always does when he goes on his TED Talk, aka Soapbox, aka Joe Rants. That he doesn't remember the original.
If I ever did one of those, by the way.
Not even if they paid you or made a contribution to SimBlades, SimBlades with a Y.com.
My beep button.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me get.
You know what, Intel? I don't always do it intentionally to get Joe on a rant. Yesterday's show, yes, I did, but today it was actually, like I said, we're just all mentioning who we think right now heading into training camp, because things can change in a training camp. Remember Damian Jones, Sean? Yes, how he was the starting center in the starting lineup.
Come on.
Yeah, times have changed.
Times have changed.
That was not in any way. That was no. I'm not even going to get into that.
But it was a real thing, Joe.
It was, but this is not this is completely different.
No, I'm just saying, if it plays out, if they play well together, they have to go ahead in training camp. He has to evaluate as a coach, meaning Darvin Ham has to evaluate as a coach exactly how well they play with each other in training camp. If it doesn't look like it's going to fit or will be very as good as you want right away, then he might be apt to go ahead and bring out another starting lineup.
So if this starting lineup is a turnstile above the offensive positivity, then yes, they're probably going to have to move Christian Wood to the bench, put AD back at the 5, and then start Rui at the 4. So yeah, that could be a possibility. But I don't think you sign a player that can get you a double-double at the center position at 27 to pull him off from the bench at the beginning. I think they're going to give him a shot to start. And
I hope so. I hope so. And I hope it does work out. I'm just, again, whatever issues you have with LeBron playing the 3 or whatever issues I have or concerns him playing the 3, I think you have to, like you said, Joe, have to worry about what's coming up on the offensive end. And Sean, the ability to go ahead and stretch it out with a 38% 40% 3-point shooter out there. That's a big man that can be alternating with on the fly right there on the floor with AD. I think that's attractive. And at least you got to go ahead and give it a try and see how it looks at first.
Yeah. And Gerald, and again, just there are examples of guys who come into a situation, they're asked to play a role, and they play it to the hilt, and I know the game now is more linked, intertwined, just tethered to offense. But there have been some very good defensive players who have come off the bench. In 1989, Dennis Rodman was the first team All-NBA. He started less than 10 games. I think you could ask Jared Vanderbilt if he thinks he could do that. As confident as the young man is, I'm sure he said he can. So people need to be presented with opportunities. Sometimes your sixth man doesn't always need to be 15 and 6 and 8 off the bench like a bottle rocket. Sometimes he's your shutdown defender. Marcus Smart was perfectly willing to come off the bench. He came off the bench before he was Defensive Player of the Year, and he would tell you that if all those years coming off the bench in high school, and then he had to work his way up through OK State, and then Boston Celtics again, he'd say it was worth it. So sometimes being asked to play a role is a humbling experience, but if it's best for the team, it's best for the team, and you shouldn't question that. You shouldn't really question that if you're about the team.
Absolutely, indeed. But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is MagicMan Sean Grice, Joe Soro, and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll just talk a few minutes more about Christian Wood, and then we will get into our coverage of this weekend, the opening weekend in the NFL. Joe, so people are still excited. You can see that as far as in our best Lakers chat room that's out there, the Lakers Fast Break, they're really excited about what the possibilities could be for Christian Wood. Again, this is a player who has burned every bridge so far in the NBA. Do you feel confident that those bridges can be repaired with his time on the Lakers?
No,
Tells
because
you
they
like
don't
it
have
is.
anything to do with the Lakers.
I'm just asking, can he redeem his career with the Lakers?
He's gonna have to. He's gonna have to earn his really first big contract at the end of the year.
Mhm.
So that has a lot of motivation there. He plays well. He's going to get the deal he needs, and this is likely going to be his only year in LA. And hopefully, it's one that gets him his money, because that means the Lakers got what they needed from him, and the Lakers are likely to win it all with that. Getting players like this, it lessens the pressure on the other guys to being integral parts of this. We can't sit here and expect 11 of these guys, 11 out of the 14, to be perfect players at their positions. This is likely we only need 8. Only 8 out of these 14 plus 15, whoever they end up filling that gap with. They only really need 8 of these guys to play well all year. They get that, Lakers are winning it all. And they're going to
Do you think they should sign a 15th player? I think they should keep the roster spot open.
I think that's probably what they'll end up doing. There isn't a need for a 15th player, really. I think that's more a CBA thing to get another guy paid. I think that's really what that is. A basketball team doesn't really, in my opinion, doesn't really need it more than 12 guys. I think 13, 14, and 15 is kind of, I don't know, a little much on a basketball team. You have 5 guys that are starting, and then you have the 7 guys coming off the bench that are going to supplant those guys, and that's enough. I don't think you need any more than that.
Plus, you got the two-way guys that you can play up to 40 games. MagicMan, is it 40
I
or
think
41?
I think it's 40, Gerald. It might be 45, but I'll double check. I think it's 40.
Okay. So
it's
yeah,
40.
I mean, you know, how much realistically? I know Darren was talking about give the 15th spot to Hodge, but how much how much realistically?
I would give it to Hodge. Hodge
play?
can shoot.
Hodge can shoot.
But if Hodge is on a two-way, how many games is he realistically you're going to play? About
only in
30
half.
to 40 anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see if he can play.
But you know what? Like I was saying in the comment section, Darren, I want to see him play with live bullets, Gerald. If he shows he can shoot, then I'd sign him to that 15th spot. I really would. During training camp, if he's really hot, like I'm talking like well over 43 beyond, yeah, you give him that spot. He could shoot. I reiterated it before, I'll say it again. I don't care about his age. I don't care that he's turning 25 in December and, he played in college for 5 years. I don't care. He could shoot, he could play the position. He's smart, he gets it. He gets what the Lakers are trying to do. Even in summer league, he was very mature. He was very mature, Gerald, and I would expect the same kind of attitude coming into training camp. So, definitely, if he's shooting when the live bullets are going on, definitely he's definitely the earmarked for that 15th spot for sure.
Zanger Science says the CBA says in a total of the 3, they can have a total of 100 games. Well, they only
Games.
have 2
They only have
two-way
2,
players.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still saying around 40 games, 35, 40 games. Realistically, that's probably how many he would play in a season if you even signed him for a full contract, because he'll be the 15th guy, 14th, 15th guy, unless he really, like you said, pops with that outside shot.
Yeah, I mean, but then at that point, right, you can sign him to a actual NBA contract.
Yeah.
So somebody, there are plenty of guys out there right now who are
Everybody can look great in summer league.
yeah, exactly. That too. But there are plenty of guys right now who are on pretty good deals because, they were two ways or they became undrafted and they got, NBA contracts. The Memphis Grizzlies had to give Kennedy Chandler a 4-year contract. They waived him, Gerald, but that's only because they had to give Kenneth Lofton Jr. An NBA contract. Miles
Alex
McBride,
Fudge is an Exhibit 10, by the way,
yeah,
just to let you know,
yeah.
Zanger.
Miles McBride for the New York Knicks, another guy from that route on a pretty good contract, especially for the level of play he utilizes. So, if Demoy is shooting well, Gerald, that's just another option to give for the Lakers to kind of shave off minutes for guys that have an injury history. I mean, we didn't really get into it, but Gabe Vincent's known to miss possibly up to 15 to 20 games a year because of knee tendonitis or soreness. So, uh, if you could add another guard or another wing, hell, I mean, do it. Do it. I mean, Kelly Oubre's still out there, Joe. If you added Kelly Oubre to this lineup, that's another option.
That's another wing for you there. There you go.
So I
And
mean,
he never saw a shot he didn't like, Sean.
no, but I don't think he'd be asked to do that on this team. Just
Oh no, he'll do it anyways.
yeah, that's why he won't be on this team, Joe.
There you go. That's why he won't be on this. You just talked yourself into it, and then talked yourself
Well,
out
no,
of it by the end.
I talked into the idea of a wing, and he's the best available on the free agent market, Joe.
She
So
says, well, Zangerside says that they signed Alex Fudge to a two-way as well.
I
But
thought it was just an Exhibit 10.
she's swearing and I don't know how they could do that if they don't have 15 people signed. Or
Yeah,
they can sign. Well, no, you're right. They can sign him to a two-way, but if they don't have him by the if they don't have 15 people signed by the start of the season, then
yeah,
they would
she's
have to
right.
waive one. They would have to waive one. So, yeah, he got bumped up from Exhibit 10 to a
To a
two-way,
two-way, but
but
now, so that roster spot is essentially not going to be filled.
uh, they could easily let him go. That's the thing, though. That's because
Well,
they
that's
want to
likely
keep
what's
that
going to
50,
happen.
because it's a salary cap issue. Then if you
So
sign a
likely
15
a
player.
scenario that's going to happen. He's going to be let go of his two-way.
And then he'll be waived to probably be somewhere in the G League for anyone to go ahead and sign, but we'll see. Uh, Adam Hurley says, I say we trade Hood Shafino for Mac McClung. There you go. But Joe, a final thoughts on Christian Wood for now. He's going to be a major source of conversation upcoming. I guess now that we can actually have the 500 Christian Wood podcasts that are out there, that now we could justify them as opposed to the ones that were done before. But your thoughts, Joe, as you unmute here, and thoughts on Christian Wood now that he's at Los Angeles Lakers before we get into fantasy football.
Welcome home. And Christian, you have the opportunity here to earn a large contract at the end of the 2024 season, win a championship, and don't be a. I don't know how to say this with you guys knowing what I'm saying. Don't be a.
Okay.
Take it for what it is.
Coming from you, we'll definitely do that indeed. But once again, Christian Wood is a Laker. He has signed a 2-year.
Yeah, on the radio, they don't see this, right? So it makes sense, right?
Yes.
So just don't be a, and yeah.
Okay.
Don't be a.
Don't be someone who's going to go ahead and get this team from the inside. Just want to be able to go ahead and resurrect your career, just like the same thing for Cam Reddish, just like the same thing for Jackson Hayes. Resurrect your career, take the time, take the notice that now is the time you need to go ahead and do so, and do it with the Lakers indeed. But thanks so much again for everybody being a part of what we're doing here at the Lakers Fast Break, especially for Intel Wild, Darren, dropping the special super chats. Truly appreciate it. You're always welcome to do so, everyone out there. Right there on your screen, go ahead and thank you so much if you do decide to do so, or support us any which way you can on Lakers Fast Break on social media or Spotify. You can go ahead and make sure you go ahead and become a member as well. But I wanted to go ahead and touch on week 1 in the NFL, hoping you'll stay with us right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football, because we are talking the NFL as well. We'll also go ahead and still answer your Christian Wood comments and things as far as in the chat. We won't go ahead and ignore them, so because Christian Wood is now a Los Angeles Laker. But Sean, week 1 in the NFL is here, my friend. Fantasy football owners are now gearing up. A lot of people have already had their drafts. There's just a couple days left as we talk about this to have your drafts before the season starts. So most everybody has had their drafts right now. What matchups are you looking at as far as in the first week of the NFL that really gets you excited as a fantasy football owner?
Yeah, Gerald, I think if you had the Bills defense this week going up against a porous New York Jets offensive line, you should be feeling pretty good. I'm not even sure if Rodgers will get out of that game unscathed. The Bills play a very disciplined style defense, but they do have a tendency to, if they able to collapse the pocket, they can create turnovers. They have an elite secondary, and I think Rodgers, as much magic as people think he has, is going to have to have a slow burn with this New York Jets bad offensive line and shaky skill players.
Okay. Joe, I know you've been scouring what's going on for this weekend. First weekend in the NFL. It starts Thursday. Is there any matchups that you're looking at to see what traditionally would be a great weekend for everybody? Everybody's starting off 0-0. Everybody has some faith in their fantasy football teams, but is there a matchup primarily you're thinking that people or teams that have these players will get off to a good start?
You mean
which one?
A good game 1? You're saying?
Yeah, good game 1. Let's say a team like maybe let's say like that there's going to be like a 30-35 point scoring outburst from a team. You can see it on the schedule right there. That's going to start off the team strong. Whoever has those players.
I could see Minnesota against Tampa Bay doing something like that. I think this is typical of Kirk Cousins and his arsenal, obviously, to play a really good home opener against a team that's obviously kind of like in a rebuild, right? Basically, when you're starting Baker Mayfield as your starter, you're essentially somewhat tanking in my book. Cardinals are definitely tanking, but I also think that Tampa Bay is tanking for the first pick next year as well. So yeah, I see Minnesota dropping 35 on Tampa to week 1, maybe even 40. I could definitely feel good about that one.
So funny. Darren has said in the chat, and thank you again for providing us with another super chat. Truly appreciate it. Joe once told me, when I want your opinion, I will beat it out of you. Yes.
Yeah, opinions are.
That's another T-shirt right there for you.
Well, you're talking like a tough guy online is always
Which one would sell better? That last statement from Darren, or I want to see your picture of your wife?
I think the wife one is a little more original,
Okay.
and I think that would sell, and that would be more quotable from me. I did create a quote years ago. That's probably my favorite one, which is "Believe what you want, you're gonna believe it anyway."
Mm-hmm.
I would like that on a next to somewhere in the Wizard at Westwood area in UCLA, next to the Wizard, with all his great quotes, because I think that's something that's true through the times of human civilization. People tend to want to believe something that's typically stupid, right? But that's a subjective thing. But more often than not, when you use common sense, it's pretty stupid. So, but that they can't be denied, right? Because this is a free country. You can think whatever you want, I guess. And so, if you're going to believe what you want to believe it then. But just know that I'm going to call you stupid if it's stupid.
Be prepared. Be prepared indeed. MagicMan, I want to ask you this: your Raiders,
Gerald.
yes, sir.
A correction for the two ways. All right, it states that a two-way eligible player is to spend no more than 50 games. So 50.
So 50 games each. Okay, so
That's
it's
right.
50 games is the limit on that. Okay, so we'll make sure we establish that again when we come around to it there in the next Lakers Fast Break. But I'm glad you got a chance to research that. So under those rules, yes, 50 games for two-way players on that is the maximum. And I think again for Demoy Hodge and also as well for Castleton, if you're going to give them a good enough look, 50 games, unless they really break out, Sean, I think that's probably the best you could expect them playing, even if they were on the team full time.
Yeah, absolutely, Gerald. Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
Kurt says it best. Yeah, absolutely. With how deep this roster is on paper, they'll be lucky to see 50 games worth of action, and I agree.
Yeah. So I'll post it again, but I'm glad we got to the bottom of that, because this new CBA's minutia and nuance is can give you a headache. I don't know how Larry Kuhn does it, but I digress. Gerald, you were talking about the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes, your Raiders, a team so enamoring to its players. They just had a player put out an Instagram notice that he did not want to play with the Raiders, Chandler Jones. I guess he immediately took it off, and he was frustrated that he didn't even get a chance
Read
to
his quote, Gerald. I want to hear you read his quote.
Well, I don't even have it on from me. So,
We'll
Shauna.
No. Oh, I got it. It, Joe. It's
I like the
open in
part
another
where he was
page.
complaining about he couldn't even get into the facility. He
Yeah,
wasn't able
yeah.
to work out in the
He
facility.
got Steve McNair.
That's true, and he had to actually work out at local facilities here in the Las Vegas area.
Yeah. So here we go.
Okay.
I won't. I'll clean it up.
No. I want you to spell it at least or something.
No, please don't.
Give me your.
No, I don't want you to listen to.
No. You have the sound effect. That's the first.
I also
word.
have the mute button.
I was trying to do it and he ruined it. Go ahead. Yeah, it's over. Go ahead. Do what you got to do now.
No. Make. The
I love
sound.
ruining it for him.
Do it.
No. Go ahead.
Do it.
It's not loud enough. If you do, people can still hear it plain as day.
He's not gonna say it, man.
I'm not gonna say it.
You have before, but go ahead.
I said spell it.
The F word, what he put in there.
Yeah, the F word. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sean.
Make with the noise.
Just
make with the noise.
All right, indulge Gerald. Just be silent in that area. Go.
I don't want to play for the Raiders. If that's my head coach or GM, I want Patrick Graham, Ivy League blank. They won't let me in the building, though, trying to provoke a blank. It's a shame that I have a top athlete with 112 sacks in the NFL that's Hall of Fame worthy, ladies and gentlemen, and I have to go to a local gym to work out during the season for no apparent reason. This is wild to me, Josh, and you know it. You need to do what's right. He's texting his head coach at this
Chandler
point.
needs to call his brother and go to the Raider facility.
But this is why I know that this organization is rotten from the inside out.
But you and Search are really behind the Raiders, so he's silver and
till
black
death.
all the way. There
Because Gerald, I have the belief, it's called faith, that one year they might win it all. That's delusional.
One day,
That's delusional.
dramatic pause. They'll win it all.
It was a Dr. Evil delivery.
Yes.
They will
win it all. But they're goofs. They're goofs.
This is an insurance decision, guys. They don't let him in the
joke.
building because if he gets hurt in the building, then they're liable.
This is true.
It's kind of like being in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, this Sue Happy culture of the United States.
But you don't need to go to the lengths where you upset a guy. Just say, hey, Mark, do you know anybody who owns a gym? No, Mark doesn't know anybody who owns a gym. And if somebody owned a gym and Mark needed a favor, you could bet your ass that they'll be at the next Raider game.
This
you
would
could
never
just walk
happen.
into Las Vegas Athletic Club.
This would
it has
never
Las Vegas
happen.
on the name.
If I was owner of any team, this stuff would never happen. Why aren't you talking to our player? There's only 53 of them, guys.
Yeah.
Give and take, depending on how the practice squad works.
And you got a phone, right? So you got everyone's name and number. You could call them up anytime you want.
You're telling me you don't have a contact guy that knows everyone?
They do.
You don't. That is a Mark Davis issue, even if it's not his fault. Allowing this kind of garbage is his fault. This cannot happen. If I'm in a boardroom and I'm talking to everyone, I'm talking to the secretary, to the mailroom guy, whatever. Guys, communication.
It's the only thing that works.
This is the NFL. This is the NFL. Okay, this is the biggest league. Some will argue in soccer that there's Champions League and all that. To me, it's the NFL. NFL is the biggest league in the world, and you own one of those 30. How the hell does this happen? And by the way, let's say the reason why it happened was Chandler Jones's fault, right? You set the precedent, okay? You tell your PR guy, Chandler's angry at us because of X, Y, and Z. And now he's saying this is what's going on. No, what happened was A, B, and C. You have to, these guys take these stances, hold on. These
Gerald,
ass stances, and it's like, you're grown-ass men. Talk to the guy. Tell us what's going on. What are we going to say? Oh, my God. They told us the truth of what happened now.
Yeah. What?
Oh, my God. What,
okay.
Just say something.
Okay.
I don't get it. Like Steve McNair, this is the first time I heard something like this with Steve McNair. They wouldn't let him in the building. This guy won an MVP for you. He made you relevant. He was 1 yard away from going to the overtime in the Super Bowl.
Joe, Steve McNair might have been a legend on the field. He was a legend in the locker room, too. That needs to be mentioned as well.
How do you do that to your number one guy for 10? Dude, you have any idea how long 10 years is in the NFL? Playing quarterback, winning an MVP, taking your team to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, where are the reporters? Where are anybody that can set the precedent? Why aren't you talking to this guy? Oh no, I want my credentials to get in. If I'm too aggressive, they won't let me in. You freaking was credentials. What do you need a credential for? It's 2023. You can see anything, do whatever you want these days.
Well, regardless of all this, Gerald, I still think that because they're on the road, it's a division rivalry. Week 1 will be a close game between the Raiders and Broncos. Despite what
I thought the Raiders were at home.
I thought they were in Denver.
It says according there on BetMGM that they're home. I thought they were
Okay.
home.
All right.
I can look that up in the schedule, but yeah, I just think right now when it comes to when you're playing a team that had a really disappointing season like Denver, who not a lot of people have faith right now in, at least you can start.
They're not in Vegas. They're in Denver.
Yeah.
Okay, BetMGM has it listed wrong. So there you go. I will say though that Denver is a disappointing team, and there's a possibility that they could get an easy win to start off their season, Sean. So
yeah, it's possible, Gerald. Yeah, they probably will be. And Sean, but that doesn't change.
Is Garoppolo a number 1 on your fantasy football team?
No, he's not. Do not take Jimmy Garoppolo as number 1. He's at some point in time, unfortunately, for whatever reason, Jimmy will get hurt, Gerald. Jimmy will get hurt, and it's likely he only plays upwards of maybe 10 to 12 games. He's going to miss a chunk of games. He just gets hurt too much.
Okay. As far as running backs, Joe, that's going to be a problem because, again, with all the issues going on with the running backs this offseason, we have several running backs in new places. Some of them that were big names last year don't even have starting roles or really consistent roles coming into this season. Plus, you have the issue with Jonathan Taylor, who mind-numbingly just is sitting at home, basically on the PUP list because the fact that he has been listed as out because of his ongoing contract dispute with Indianapolis. At least Sean's team was able to go ahead and bring in Josh Jacobs at the last minute, and they finally came to an agreement on a contract. But your thoughts on some running backs to look out for this weekend in a league where there's really not a lot of great running backs right now?
Running backs, my God, the death of running backs is gone up a couple more levels here. They were already dying before, but this summer was almost like now they're in the coffin. Who is going to be the most productive running back this season? I'm still going to stick with Eckler. I think Eckler is
solid choice.
A solid running back who seems to find the nose to the end zone. And if he doesn't get hurt, I'm picking him to win the rushing title and lead the league in touchdowns again because Justin Herbert might pass for 6,000 yards this year.
He starts at home against Dolphins this weekend. So
yeah, I think the problem with the Chargers is I think they're going to have the first firing of the season with their coach. I think the Chargers should have let him go, and they should have went another route. But it's the Spanos, man. Spanos don't know what the freak they're doing, man. And you can't waste another quarterback's career. You wasted Drew Brees when he was there. You wasted Phillip Rivers when he was there. Dan Fouts to some degree. I know Eric Coryell is a Hall of Famer, but how many times are you going to have these Hall of Fame quarterbacks and you're going to come up lame without going to a Super or at least winning a Super Bowl? I just don't see anyone else at the running back position. Josh Jacobs, obviously.
I think if health, Joe Mixon will be a huge fantasy gift.
I think Joe Mixon. It's hard for Joe Mixon to be that guy when you have Higgins, Chase, and a superstar quarterback that's going to want to throw to those guys.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of looks underneath Joe.
Watch out for the kid in Atlanta, Robinson.
Bijan Robinson.
Yes. I haven't seen him play really, but I'm hearing a lot of good things.
You should have seen him play in Texas. Really,
I didn't
kid's
see hardly any
explosive.
Texas. Yeah, I haven't seen hardly any. And Atlanta needs that quarterback to come through. If he does, and you've got a good running back to help him, then Atlanta could expedite their new regime very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
They got a nice looking offense, that's for sure.
Drake London.
Drake
There you
London's
go.
the number one wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. But Sean, I want to ask you this: when it comes to one of the matchups that could be interesting for fantasy football owners out there, the 49ers and Steelers. Your thoughts on this, my friend? Because when it comes down to Joe and we mentioned it earlier. I was able to pick up Kenny Pickett on one of my rosters, one of my drafts, as the last pick of the last round of my draft. I have a feeling that Kenny Pickett will probably prove a lot of people wrong this year. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I know I mentioned in the chat what my picks are, but I would not be surprised if Pittsburgh is actually at the very top of the AFC this year, because Joe might be a very happy camper if that's the case. Your thoughts on that game coming up, and also the return of Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, he's healthy now. We don't know if he'll stay upright all season long. The odds are like AD and LeBron kind of know. But your thoughts on San Francisco at Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it's just in my opinion, Gerald, it's the game which features the two best pass rushers in the NFL. You have the bull rusher in Nick Bosa, whose motor just doesn't stop.
That's crazy that you don't sign Bosa.
I don't understand it. I
just
really
like
don't.
Taylor. These are just mind-boggling. Just pay them.
I don't
pay them. They're worth it.
He is. Yeah, he's a game wrecker.
We're not talking about someone that's maybe like an all-pro, because the NFL all-pros, like, okay, if I don't want to go to the all-pro game, they'll just bring in some other guy that's like had a mediocre season to be an all-pro. These are two of the top players in the NFL, and they're not playing, Sean. And in San Francisco's case, he is the center and the cornerstone of their entire defense, which is problem for me, because I had to pick them as far as my defense.
Yeah,
but that's a problem for fantasy owners as well.
The 49ers defense will revolve around Nick Bosa and Hufanga, who happens to be kind of a Troy Polamalu clone.
But Bosa's not there.
But Bosa is not there. And
guys, Bosa's going to be the highest paid defensive player in NFL history in a few days.
Yeah, he should be.
I wouldn't worry too much about it.
He should be. They need to make sure he's in the lineup, because he is a game wreck. He is a game wrecker.
That's going to be in terms of the ascent of Kenny Pickett, because this team is deep. The Steeler team is deep, and they hit on 10 draft picks the last 2 years. That's how you.
Joe's right. So this game is kind of a yardstick game for them, because San Francisco plays a very similar style to the old Pittsburgh Steelers. Physical, 3 to 4 hats to the ball minimum. It's going to be a very physical game, and you're going to rely on a lot. Kenny Pickett is going to have to make a lot of quick throws if this is going to be a close game.
Let me ask you this, though, Sean, before I bring it back over to Joe. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, probably one of the best. Yes, Mr. Irrelevant, probably one of the best NFL stories to come out in quite some time. Led this team to the playoffs and unfortunately got injured, and it all went downhill from there. But he comes back after the injury. He was very statistically, it looked really good. Do you expect that kind of output, or should fantasy football owners who might have him on as a QB2? Because if you're starting him, it's a big risk. But if you even have him on your team as a QB2, are you going ahead and gauging how he is? Do you think he'll be able to go ahead and live up to the expectations once again?
Yeah, I do, Gerald.
Raphael 562, our good friend out there, tremendous part of this show, said Purdy is the truth.
I think so, Joe. That number 2 guy on your fantasy team. I think so. I think that's conditional, though. He needs a relatively healthy Christian McCaffrey,
Mhm.
and he needs Debo Samuel to probably. Man, if he's your number two, you're probably gonna want Debo Samuel at least 1,300 to 1,500 yards, right, Gerald? So
Yep.
it might have to be kind of an overachieving year for Debo, but I think it's possible for Purdy for sure.
We'll see what happens, but that's a great matchup. I think that's the best matchup I see in week one right there from what I'm
Mhm.
seeing, but there are still great matchups there. One I liked though is going to be on Thursday night, Joe, and that's it's Detroit going into Kansas City. Kansas City world champions, Patrick Mahomes. There's questions abound as far as what's going on with the tight end position there because there might be an injury there that might be of some concern to individuals who got that individual right there for you. And I won't even mention it because I mentioned it earlier to someone today, and they really just had that pained look when I talked about it. But your thoughts, though, my friend, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, you know, Amon St. Brown, he just absolutely has been a breakout star, someone that everybody was overlooking. We talked about him last week. I really think he could become not only a wide receiver one, but he could become one of the top and elite wide receivers in fantasy football.
This could be an upset. I think there's been some swirling around that the Detroit has a chance at winning this. The problem with that swirling is
If Travis Kelsey is out, then yeah, definitely.
if that gets to this is the kind of stuff when it gets to the other locker room, there's an extra button that gets pressed, and they go, "Oh, really? The Detroit Lions gonna come to KC and beat us on a Thursday?" Okay, and you have the best athlete on the planet right now, in my opinion, in Patrick Mahomes. I mean, come on. Does he really need Travis Kelsey for this game? Sure, needs him. Does he really, really need him? I'm gonna
You should
take
be able to win without him.
I'm gonna take a guess that the Kansas City Chiefs have heard this rumbling and they're going to lay the wood on Detroit on Thursday.
Okay, fair enough. Sean, I think there's some really good matchups in week one of the NFL. Is there any other matchups you see from a fantasy football standpoint that team owners or people who haven't even drafted yet can fully take advantage of before we go ahead and basically start off with some of the lines and the woof woof woof, head over to the doghouse?
All right. You know what, Gerald? Yeah. It's really interesting. The Eagles are traveling to Foxborough to play the Pats, and it's supposed to rain really hard across the Northeast this weekend. So I would avoid the Philadelphia Eagles skill players this week. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. I would avoid them. Road teams, especially early on in the season, if there's inclement weather, it's definitely going to be not a high scoring game. Philly was in those 35 to 26, 38 to 30 games, Cheryl. I expect this to be very low scoring.
Okay. All right, especially with the weather concerned, you're right on that. That could be very much of a possibility. So
Well,
fantasy football.
and Gerald, you know that Bill Belichick always has something up his sleeve in week one. There,
So absolutely, I can't agree with you more on that. But Joe, really looks like it's going to be an interesting week. The last game, obviously, I want to go ahead and talk about. Interesting, Joe, that they're only doing one Monday night football game from what I'm seeing, and it will be the Buffalo Bills heading into Aaron Rodgers land at the New York Jets. I think this is going to be the first test, obviously, for the New York Jets out there to see if they can mesh with their newest quarterback and if Aaron Rodgers still has enough in the tank. I think this will be a very stiff test. But your thoughts on the Bills and the Jets coming up?
I'm a big fan of Aaron Rodgers, the guy. And if the Steelers aren't winning at all, I'm pulling for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. There's some kind of feeling that in terms of stories, while everyone usually likes the feel good story, some guy came from apparently every single human being, according to American Idol or the 2 weeks between the Super Bowl, everyone comes from some trash can thrown out of the garbage and came out of the muck to be where they are, right? It's always some damn sob story. No one ever comes on and says, yeah, actually, I'm sorry. Only one guy's ever said it, Bill Laimbeer. Yeah, I grew up with money. Yeah, I'm here because...
Oh, no, you're wrong about that, Joe. Johnny Manziel said that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, but he didn't really make it, did he? And maybe in college, right? But you're right. You're right with Johnny, right? So with that, I want Aaron Rodgers. If the Steelers don't win it, I want Aaron Rodgers to win it all. And just the thought of what would happen in New York if that guy brings the Jets a Super Bowl, could you imagine? Could you imagine the hysteria? Tom Brady went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl, but it's Tampa Bay, right? It was more really about Tom Brady's greatness at that point, which was kind of cool. But it's Tampa Bay. I'm more about the surrounding stuff, like New York. That Aaron Rodgers, if he wins a Super Bowl this year for the Jets, is that guy ever going to walk in New York, let alone have to pay for anything? They're going to carry that guy everywhere. You know what I mean? So I just think that would be cool. And then again, I think his reaction to it all would be cool because people think he's an arrogant guy. I know what an arrogant guy looks like. He is not an arrogant guy. He just does what he wants to do. And that just pisses people off. Why is it? Why is that? Why? What is it with people's infatuation of wanting certain people to do exactly what they do? Do people understand that most of the things you do are boring and suck? Do you not know that? I don't want to do suck and boring. Sorry, I don't. And Aaron Rodgers, one of those guys that I just see him in liking what he does. You can go on
This does not shock me at all, by the way.
McAfee show. You can go on Joe Rogan and listen to him talk. You don't got to listen to me. It's not just my interpretation of what he does on Sundays. The guy is living life the way he's supposed to.
Okay.
So I'm supporting it, and I'd like to see the Jets win it all if the Steelers don't win it all. Although there is a soft spot for Buffalo because they haven't won.
Well, he's been the starting quarterback in two of my leagues that have gone all the way to the finals or the championship. So I'm not going to disagree with you there. If you get Rodgers still being able to go ahead and produce for you like MVP Rodgers, there you go. But if you got Rodgers that's like maybe on the decline, maybe not what he once was, especially with a Jets team that's kind of iffy in certain places on the roster, we'll see if it's looking like Joe Montana with the Kansas City Chiefs, but we'll see.
Joe Montana went to the AFC title game.
See, here's the thing.
But he was not the same quarterback.
Here's the
you
thing,
cannot tell me he was the same quarterback.
Because he got injured in that game.
You're not even going to try and compare this Jets offensive line to what Brady had in Tampa.
Yeah.
John Jensen was a mauler. He's a mauler. You got a number one draft first round pick that became your starting right guard. Brady had pretty much a perfect scenario for him. And Joe's correct. Like, on paper, it looked like Rodgers had the same thing, but just don't even try to compare those offensive lines.
It's interesting you bring up the offensive line, Sean, because the reason why the Steelers got God, my brain is completely
Jones.
It's because Belichick pulled a jack move on the Jets.
Yeah.
And if Jones, if they don't make that move, the Jets get Jones at
And
the
maybe he helped stabilize their crappiness that they have now, Joe. But
Jones was going to the Jets at 15. It was Belichick trading with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh desperately needed a left tackle of that guy's caliber. And of course, I mean, it was that might have been the, what do they call it, the coup de grace for the Jets doing what they want to do. Because I've been impressed with Jones in training camp. There was a couple of spots there where he was kind of getting acclimated, but man, as soon as he started getting some things right, he was really playing well.
It's not so much, and it's not so much the preseason. Like, people need to remember, in case you forgot, Pittsburgh was one of the hottest teams at the end of last year. Won 7 of their last 9. They just blowtorched every opponent they've had in the preseason. So yeah, you're right, Gerald. Going into week 1, that'd be the game of the week.
Before we head on out, I do want to mention back to basketball real quick. It was also noted right after the signing for Christian Wood to Lakers that Danny Green, 3-time world champion, including one with the Lakers, re-signed because he was on them before with the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know how much he has left in the tank after all the injuries he suffered. Sean is already shaking his head that he's probably seeing. Yes, that's right. What I said. Thanks for the echo on that. But I will say, though, that before we head on out, one of the things I like to do, and one of the things that we like to do when Chris Lardieri from the Domination Sports Nation, give a big shout out to him, who's now currently on vacation. Hopefully everything is good. Shaka Bra over there in Hawaii. Hopefully you will enjoy the rest of your time there with your family. But before we head on out, guys, one of the things that Chris likes to do is started actually even before he met me and he was doing his own show with Inside Sports, and that is woof, woof, woof. Let's go to the DogHouse. What we do is we pick one underdog that we like. See, he has no idea what we're talking about because I send him the notes and he just doesn't. Yeah,
not one word I read.
Yeah, exactly. And that's par for the course.
Actually, technically, I was just laughing at the woof woof. Actually, I had nothing to do with.
Well, that's what we do on the show. But woof woof woof, it's the DogHouse.
I wish you didn't.
Well, woof woof woof. I'm going to keep on doing it. So I'll start off with you, Sean. Joe, make sure can you look at the lines for this week and see if there's one game? Because Alice was actually.
I have a game already. By the way, I do as well. I did read your stuff, dude.
Okay. Well, sometimes you usually like the memes. If it's the memes, you like the big pictures there when Sean sent it to you. But Sean, when it comes to the underdog that you like for this week, who do you like, my friend?
All right, Gerald. So I'm going with the home dog.
Okay.
I'm going with the Big Blue, the Giants, home for Sunday Night Football. Got the Dallas Cowboys coming in. I like the Giants here. It's also supposed to rain in New York on the Northeast as well. Cowboys don't play good in the rain. Dak doesn't play good in the rain. Micah Parsons will not be able to get the kind of opportunities he would otherwise, Gerald, because of the fact I think the Giants are going to rely on the running game. So I'm picking the Giants as a home dog. Giants win 26-23.
Okay, there you go. Joe, what did you have in mind for an underdog this weekend?
Houston beats Baltimore. Baltimore.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
That's onions. That's onions.
Yes. I don't know what that means, but yes.
Well, right now, as far as let me see the spread on that. Right now, what's the spread that you have on that right now?
I mean, 6.5, isn't it?
No, it's 10.5. I thought
it is 10 right now.
Yeah, 10.
Baltimore's favored by 10.
I'll pick Houston with the points.
It's way too many points.
Baltimore's not winning by 10, more than 10. No way.
No way.
Mine is a little bit more simple. It is on the road, but what Joe said kind of threw it over the top for me as far as this could be a very pivotal year for the Los Angeles Chargers. And if it goes awry quickly, you will probably see the first head coach firing right there. I think the Miami Dolphins will go into SoFi Stadium and pull off the upset. They're underdog by 3. And so I think they will go ahead and be not only the 3, but actually maybe I'm thinking it's going to be an easy win for them. I think they're going to go in there unless Eckler has a great game and Herbert has a great game. I think it's going to be. I think Tua's got a lot to prove. While he stays upright, I think Tua has a lot to prove, and I think the Dolphins are going to go in there and win pretty easily, and because they are underdogs by 3, and I think that's what's going to happen. So there you go. All right. But I will say now, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. We truly want to thank you for joining us. Joe's pointing, it's right there. Oh my gosh. There you go. But before we head on out, once again, Christian Wood is a Laker. Everybody's still happy. Appreciate everyone for still being here. Laker Tom's dream has come true. You're going to see about the next 15 articles coming up at Lakerholics.com. Can't wait to hear 1 hour of him on the weekend, Sean and Joe, with the dark glasses on, talking about Christian Wood, until Jamie Sweet throws up on the air. So, because it's coming, because how much Jamie Sweet does not like Christian Wood.
Well, not to mention the fact that Tom also wanted to acquire Christian Wood while trading Jared Vanderbilt.
Yes, that really got him incensed. So yes, that was the major argument between those guys. But I think it's a good signing. I think it's a win-win situation for both the individuals there and also the team. So, you know what? Question: when we're talking about the starting lineup and what we need to fit, that means you have a lot of depth. Means you have a lot of options when you can go ahead, and that's what you really want the most. The Lakers have signed a big, so I think they're done for now. I think they keep that 15 spot open, guys, and I think that's what they're going to do. So Joe's all happy, all excited. Sean, Joe, any last thoughts on Christian Wood before we have like 50 more podcasts on him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So one said no, one said yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
First of all, this ensures a couple things. One, we won't have to deal with 4 different centers all damn year. 2, and probably most important, we now have construction at the center position, Gerald, where a player is capable of making a shot outside of 3 feet. That's a positive.
And capable because you didn't sign Biombo for hitting a 3 throw.
That's a plus, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. That's a plus because we had at one point Damian Jones, Mo Bamba, Wenyen Gabriel playing the center position for the Los Angeles Lakers. And yes, it was painful to watch as these gentlemen's cringy faces made it out to be. We won't have to deal with that nightmare this year. All due respect to those 3 gentlemen. But, Gerald, we found stability at the center position.
When we're asking for Jay Huff to come back, we were reaching the bottom of the barrel. Yeah,
my God, yes, that we were at one point. That was like scraping the barnacles off the bottom of a rickety-ass boat.
Yes, absolutely, indeed. But we will be covering a lot more, including a lot more Christian Wood in the coming days. But tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we've got a great conversation upcoming for you. We got more NBA team reports coming up your way. First off, we've got Candy Ebling from the Milwaukee Bucks. She's going to cover Giannis Antetokounmpo. Maybe he could be heading on his way to the Lakers. We'll talk about that with Candy tomorrow at 5 p.m.
I want candy.
There you go. Absolutely. Good song from the 80s.
That song needs to be playing when she comes.
No. Sorry. Can't do that. Copyright issues.
I don't
Dustin
care.
I know you don't care. Dustin Doperak, he's covering the Indiana Pacers. He'll be on here Thursday. I think also as well on Friday. we do have actually confirmation from the UK that John Jablanca will be on Friday morning at 11 a.m. So that's coming up for us right there.
Hello.
Yes, hello indeed. So Wednesday at 5, Thursday at 4, and Friday at 11. So we'll be having more early shows. You wanted some early shows? You got some early shows with us. And next week, I'll be on with Chris Ardieri. These guys are most welcome to come back on Inside Sports Fantasy Football anytime they can. And we truly appreciate you joining us for that. Once again, it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. And of course, right here tonight with our great crowd, the best Lakers chat room that's out there, of course, can be found no other place than the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.